Hi, welcome to Made by Monica. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and wonderful New Year's. We're just so looking forward to 2022. Can you guys believe it? 2022. I know, isn't it crazy? Okay, so today on Made by Monica, we are doing two different soups. And so hopefully you guys had some ham or something for Christmas or New Year's or something. And oh, please tell me you didn't throw away those ham bones. Because we are making ham and bean soup, yep, out of those ham bones. So whenever you have a big old spiral sliced ham, oh my goodness, go ahead and tear the ham away from those bones and then put those bones in a freezer bag and put them in the freezer because they make a great ham and bean soup. So I'm gonna show you how that's made here in just a minute. The second soup that we're gonna be doing today is chicken noodle soup. And the reason that I did the two soups together is they have a lot of the same ingredients. Yeah, so carrots, celery, onion, olive oil, chicken broth, things like that. So one trip to the store, two soups. That's what we're talking about today. Yep, so let's get started. I'm gonna show you the ingredients. Here we go. All right, so here are our good looking ingredients here, you guys. Look at these, fresh. Okay, so we have carrots and celery. And so we have carrots and celery for the chicken noodle soup, carrots and celery for the ham and bean soup. And then of course we have our chopped onions. We've got chicken broth that's gonna be in both soups. And we have the extra virgin olive oil that's gonna be in both soups. And then a lot of the spices that we're using are also in both soups. So we've got some bay leaves here. We've got some parsley that's gonna go in both soups. And then of course we have our salt and pepper, yes. Okay, so the differences that we have is I went ahead and froze some of the chopped up ham. So this is some of the spiral sliced ham that we had left over from Christmas. And I'll show you in just a second. I've got the ham bone and some chicken broth on the stove already, so. And then you are going to need 4 cans of the cannellini beans for the ham and bean soup. And then the other thing different for the chicken noodle soup then of course is your egg noodles. So, all right, let's get all this put together. I'm going to show you the ham bone in chicken broth. Okay, so here's what we've got going here. This is that ham bone that I took out of the freezer. And so whenever we do a spiral sliced ham for Christmas or Easter, we always save the ham bone. I put a little bit of chicken broth in it and I just let it simmer in the hot chicken broth. You just boil the chicken broth and then just put a lid on it and let it simmer, for probably a good hour. And then we are gonna go ahead and shred all this ham off of here. And then we are going to make our soup back in this pot. All right, so we have our olive oil in here, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then you can see those wonderful celery, carrots, onion. This soup is gonna be so good, so good. All right, so I wanted to show you too, I got about 3 cups of that ham stock. And then we are going to need about 3 more cups of the chicken broth to add to it. Now, I've tried it with all ham stock and it's just too salty. So you definitely want to have about half and half, about half of your ham stock and half of your chicken broth. Now, if you don't have a ham bone left over from Christmas or something, you can certainly make this soup. Just go ahead and use all chicken broth, and then you can even buy ham from the store and either cut it up or you can buy it in ham chunks too. So we are going to cook these veggies for, maybe about 5 minutes or so. Just kind of let them get soft and all yummy. And when you start smelling them, you know that it is ready. So I have the cannellini beans draining. So you want to drain and rinse your cannellini beans while you're cooking up your veggies and getting them all soft. So it has been about 5 or 6 minutes and we have sauteed up our wonderful veggies. They smell so good. So how you know that they're done is kind of check your onions. You want your onions to be nice and translucent, but not burnt. So you kind of got to get that sweet spot where you know that they're done because you can kind of see through them a little bit. but they're not burnt. You definitely don't want burnt onions. So you kind of hit that sweet spot and you know it's good to go. So we are good to go here. We are going to go ahead and add in this ham. Now, my ham is frozen. You can go ahead and thaw that ham if you want to, but it's not necessary. I have sliced it up so thin that it'll thaw out in the pan really quickly. So we're going to go ahead and add that ham. And like I said, if you don't have a spiral sliced ham that you had from Christmas or Easter or whatever, or something in your freezer, they do sell it in the store. So no big deal. Like I said, you can use all chicken broth and then just buy some chunked ham in the store. Or cut up your own, and it freezes really, really well. So when they put that ham on sale at the store, you're gonna want to grab it. Okay, so we've got those in now, the ham, and we're going to add our drained and rinsed cannellini beans. And we'll get those all stirred into the pot here. Oh my gosh, doesn't that look amazing? Talk about comfort food. Here it is right here. There's your comfort food. Goodness. It just smells and looks so good. So good. Okay. So now we are going to go ahead and put in those 3 cups of ham broth that we had from our ham. And like I said, because you're cooking the ham in the broth, it just becomes very salty. And so you don't want to add all ham broth because it just makes the soup too rich, too much. So you do want to thin it out with that chicken broth. So my suggestion is that you do half and half, and it usually comes out pretty good. So we're going to add those 3 cups in, and then we'll add the 3 cups of the other chicken broth here in just a minute. We are going to go ahead and add in our bay leaves. Those are pretty small. The recipe calls for 2 bay leaves, but if your bay leaves are small, you probably want to go ahead and add some more. Now, don't forget about those bay leaves, you guys. Okay, so I have to tell on myself. I used bay leaves in a soup, and I forgot to pull them out. And my husband came over and got a big old scoop of soup. He ended up with all 3 bay leaves in his soup. Now, you guys, if you've never eaten like a bay leaf from a soup, it is hard and crunchy and tastes terrible. So you want to put your bay leaves in, and you want to give them time to release their goodness, but you always want to pull them out before you serve your soup, because you do not want a family member or a guest chomping down on some bay leaf, because it just is not good at all. All right, so now we've got some parsley. So we are just adding in our parsley flakes, and you can do this to taste. I usually add just a little bit to begin with, and then you can always add parsley to your soup once you get everything in there. Now, I would hold off on the salt for right now. Just leave those bay leaves in there and that parsley, and you can add, a little bit of pepper. And that will help season your soup. But because your ham and your ham broth is so salty, I would definitely wait on that. So we're going to add our 3 cups of chicken broth, and we are going to let that simmer for a little bit. So I wanted to show you what the soup looked like with the other 3 cups of chicken broth in it. So that's what it looks like with the chicken broth in it. And we are going to go ahead and let that just simmer for a little bit. And actually, if you want to let it simmer for a little longer to meld all those flavors together, you can put a lid on it, and then it will just simmer for you. And so, don't feel like you have to watch the pot or anything. So if you're in a hurry, go ahead, bring it up to a boil, let it simmer for 15 minutes, and it's good to eat. So, but you can let it simmer for just a little bit longer with the lid on it, like I said, and it will just taste even better and better. So leave it on the stove if you need to, and walk away. So we have our ham and bean soup here, and it is simmering away. I went ahead and put a lid on it. I'm going to let mine simmer for probably about half an hour or so, and that's going to be really good. So now on this side of the stove, we have got our chicken noodle soup going. So I've got just some chicken broth in some chicken. I just took some frozen chicken out of the freezer, dumped it right in the pot, and put about 2 boxes of chicken broth on top of it because I'm making a lot. And so I'm making a whole package of noodles. If you're just doing half the package of noodles and you want it to be like a soupy soup, then you don't need to do that much chicken broth in there. But go ahead, I did 2 boxes of chicken broth and some chicken straight from the freezer. And as soon as that chicken is done, then we are gonna go ahead and shred that up. So first off, we have got to get started on our carrots and celery and onion like we did before. So I wanted to show you a little trick with these onions. So I buy the frozen chopped onions, especially if you're cooking with them, because they thaw out very nicely and the water all evaporates and everything. So you definitely don't want to eat these, you know, like raw on a hamburger or something like that. But if you're cooking with onion, these are amazing. And so I just cut the top off. I use the onions in the bean soup and use the onions in the chicken noodle soup. And I have this food saver. And so it kind of went through the tornado with us. So it looks a little rough, but these things are amazing. We use them all the time. So what you can do is just reseal your potato chips, your onions, your tater tots, your everything. Well, it would help if I would plug it in. All right, we're gonna try this again. Okay, there we go. And then you just hit seal on this one. Now, if you're doing hamburger or something like that, you can use the vac seal on it and you put some hamburgers in here or, you know, turkey, ground turkey, whatever, and in your baggies. They come in a roll like this and you just cut them off and then you seal both ends and you throw them in your freezer. So if you guys don't have a food saver, these things are marvelous. And so we just sealed our bag and then we can put it back in the freezer. Anyway, just wanted to take a second and show you guys that. Ta-da! And here we have our little trinity again. We have got our celery, onion, and carrot, and it is cooking away in our olive oil. We have about, you know, you can use a tablespoon if you want to because the chicken noodle soup is a lot lighter than the bean soup. So just go ahead and use 1 tablespoon of the olive oil in here because we all just don't need that many calories and stuff. And the veggies give off such sweet goodness of their own. So we don't need all of that. But anyway, go ahead and add your onion, carrots, and celery into the pot. And again, we are going to let it cook for, again, 5 or 6 minutes. Let it saute. We want those onions to be nice and translucent and the carrots and celery to be soft. So here we go. Our trinity of onions and carrots and celery are now all sauteed and soft. Now you guys can add as much or as little, you know, carrot and celery to your chicken noodle soup as you want. It's really not for, you know, to give any really thing to the chicken noodle soup except for flavor. So I just cut up 1 carrot, 1 celery stalk, and then a little bit of onion. So it's really just to give my chicken noodle soup some flavor in the background, and kind of olive oil is really the star of the show. So it's really kind of a vehicle for the olive oil because you guys do not skip this step. It is amazing, it's awesome, and you are gonna be blown away at how homemade this soup tastes because you sauteed a little bit of vegetables in the olive oil. And when you add this to your chicken noodle soup, oh, it brings it up 5 levels. It's just so good. So don't skip this step. You really want to do this. It doesn't take long, 5 minutes, you're done, and it adds so much flavor in the background. So we are going to get our chicken shredded from our pot, and then we are going to add this to it and get our soup moving forward. So we have our beautiful vegetables all ready to go. I have my shredded chicken here. I took out of that broth and I shredded it up. And then I have the broth over here. And you can see our other bean soup is just working away over there. Yum, 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 yum. Now, I actually did this in 2 separate pots, but you can do it in one. I just didn't think about it today. I wanted to get the chicken going and I completely forgot to saute my vegetables and stuff first. So actually what you can do is go ahead and saute your vegetables, Then put your chicken broth and your frozen chicken in here, or fresh chicken, you know, however you want to do that. Let it go for about 15-20 minutes until your chicken is nice and soft and poached, and then go ahead and pull it out, shred it up, and then you can put it back in the pot. So you do not have to use 2 pots like I did. I just was in a hurry today and just was thinking about getting the chicken poached, and I forgot to saute my vegetables. So do not feel like you have to use 2 pots. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put everything into this pot here. And so we're just going to go ahead and put our chicken, our shredded chicken, into here. And then we are going to add our bay leaves and our parsley again. This one's going to need a little more salt than the bean soup did, because it doesn't have, the chicken is not nearly as salty as the ham was, but your chicken broth is pretty salty. So, you know, you do want to kind of put it together first, and then you're going to want to taste it. So we're going to now add this chicken broth into here. We're going to go ahead and bring that back up to temp. And then we will be adding our noodles to it. So we are going to need more chicken broth than this. So I am going to go ahead and put more chicken broth in here. I will probably add a whole nother box, because I'm making a large portion of the chicken noodle soup. I got a lot of people to feed. So I am making a very large portion. So you normally won't have this much chicken in it, but just follow the recipe and it'll be just fine. So, but like I said, I'm kind of not doubling it, kind of doubling it. So anyway, I don't know. I don't always follow the recipe. I just know how many people my recipe feeds, and I know, like, if I've got extra people, I just add more chicken broth. So it's fine. It all works out fine. You need quite a bit of chicken broth because you want to keep it as a soup. And once the noodles absorb the chicken broth, you can lose a lot of your, you know, soup, and it becomes more of like a stew and you don't want that. So go ahead and definitely have some extra boxes of chicken broth on hand, and that way you can keep adding some chicken broth and keep it as a soup. So we are going to go ahead and add our bay leaves here. And so let's pick a couple of good ones. We'll pick this one and this one. And then we are going to go ahead and again add our parsley flakes. And so this is kind of the same way. You can add a little bit now, and then once your soup has come together, if you're wanting some more parsley in it, you can. We're going to hold off on the salt and pepper until you know, it comes together just a little more, so we can see and taste our soup before we kind of add that salt and pepper in. But you do want to saute it with the salt and pepper in it, and that way it releases its flavor too. So, all right, we're going to add some more chicken broth and let that go for just a little bit. We're just going to bring that back up to 10. So here's what that looks like then with the extra chicken broth added to it. And we are going to go ahead and bring that back up to a boil, and then we're going to add our noodles to it. All right, we got some boilage here. So we are going to go ahead and add those egg noodles in. So like I said, I am going to go ahead and add a lot of them because I am feeding a lot of people. And so if you don't want to add that much, you certainly don't have to. Because sometimes if you don't have enough broth, then you end up with you know, more of a stew than a chicken noodle soup. So just make sure that you have enough broth. I'm going to go ahead and cook these noodles down, and then I am going to add some more broth as I go to keep it, like I said, as a soup. But you can see all that goodness. You can see just a little bit of carrots and celery in there in the background. All that good shredded chicken. And you guys, it didn't take us long at all. I mean, really, 5-10 minutes to put this soup together, and you will not believe the flavor. It is unbelievable. Yeah, you'll be coming back to this one all winter long. It really is a good soup, you guys. Really, really good. And like I said, don't skip that step of sauteing those vegetables because they're really good. So now we have this other soup. He is looking really good. And remember I told you about those bay leaves? If you love your friends and family, you will dig these bay leaves out. Do not forget, because they are hard and crunchy, and you do not want friends and family biting down on your bay leaves. Okay, well, I need to find my other 2 bay leaves in here. Oh, there's one. So I'm going to put my camera down. I am going to find that other bay leaf that's in there and let that go for just a little bit longer. We've got our other chicken noodle soup just working away over here. We're boiling up those noodles, and then we're going to add some more chicken stock or broth to this. And that's going to help, like I said, keep it as a soup, because those noodles will definitely absorb a lot of that chicken broth. So like I said, make sure you have a couple of extra boxes of chicken broth on hand. They're really cheap, so just keep them in your pantry. All right, we'll be back. Did you see the bay leaf there? Yeah, we got to get those out too. Okay, we'll be back. So my husband didn't want to wait. He's hungry. So he's gonna go ahead and pour himself some soup. Now, he did taste it, and he thought that the salt and seasoning in it was just perfect. So I did not add any salt. I added just that little bit of pepper at the beginning, and he said it was perfect. So we'll take a look at his soup here, and he's gonna go eat. All right, looks good. Yum. Okay, here is our chicken noodle soup, all finished. And like I said, you can add more broth if you want more of a soup. And again, if you love your friends and family, find your bay leaves, because you do not want them chomping down on something like that. Not pleasant. So anyway, that's how this soup turned out. Doesn't it look absolutely amazing? Just amazing. All right. Thank you guys so much for cooking with me today. We made 2 wonderful soups. I'm getting ready to have some bean soup for lunch, and then the chicken noodle soup I will be serving to a group of people later on today. So I really appreciate you stopping by my channel. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do so. I am really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so we'll see if we can do that fairly quickly. And I hope you guys have a very happy new year, and we're all looking forward to 2022. See you then.